Hey everybody, coming at you again for this live. We've got WheelJack from the original Transformers series. Um, I do have a couple of things going on with the Bumblebee um, multi-card set, the puzzle style layout and whatnot. But I decided to do this one today to shake things up a little bit. So, hey Rob, how's it going, man? Gonna share this over with the page real quick, and we'll get started right into this thing. Um, Also, I wanted to say that thank you guys for checking everything out because I highly appreciate it, as always. And I wanted to let you guys know that since I've been getting asked so much about it, I thought I'd go ahead and tell you. I've got about 30 or so cards that I've colored up and finished in the set, and I'm going to be posting those here shortly right after. So we're going to get that done and start letting you guys see some of the cards out there and whatnot. And I won't throw down here to stack them all up and whatnot. Excuse my cough. My allergies are going crazy today because the weather changed. We got a little bit of rain last night, and it's been raining soft all day. And we got a hardcore weather drop. It was weird. It dropped probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 degrees difference. So, it's really strange weather going on right now. It's making that transition into fall. And we've got a couple of different things going on. But it decided to hit me right in the face, wouldn't you know it? But anyway, yeah, this character is one of my favorites because he was basically the inventor or scientist of the group more than anything else. And he was just as much a warrior as anybody else, though. And what I loved about this guy is because of the fact that he used to, he used to fight and build weapons and build new Transformers all the time. He always was bringing in new characters, and he also introduced the Dinobots into the original series back in the 80s. But he was always underutilized and always an underdog, in my opinion. But one of the cool things is I mentioned it on the post when I put up the image. I put in one of the what I call the Fallout Boys right here because anytime that they had the cartoon going, they always had 7, 8 cast members, period. And I always loved the fact that when they would do these big battle scenes, there would be 4 or 5 Decepticons and 4 or 5 Autobots talking and arguing, and then you'd see 30 robots in the fight, and how they did that is they had what they would call the extras in place, and it's basically these red and blue Transformers that were Autobots, and they had different variations on them for the Decepticons, and it just cracked me up because that was one of the original series to have extras in the background that got major stunts in the animation. I mean, granted it's animation and they're going to pull it out anyway, but the cool part about that was the fact that they would have major fight scenes, and these guys, you'd see them get just a split second shot to the face, kind of thing, or take down a Decepticon, and you'd see them running by and fighting each other, and then that's the way it would be as the filler. But they never got names. They never got lines in the series. They never got put into where they were animated as major characters and kind of things like that. But I just always found that fascinating that they used filler like that. You can go back on YouTube and check out some of the episodes of the series if you don't have them on DVD or anything like that yourself, and check it out. It's funny to watch when you know they're there. It gets really, really humorous because it's like, really? And it's amazing how quickly they would use them and use them for everything. So that's just one of those things that cracked me up. I haven't yet found a series that used that type of technique yet. I mean, I know a lot of the older cartoons used to use, they would use track animation, and they would use, just recycle and reuse footage over and over and over and over. But that's not what I'm talking about here. These guys were actually animated for the purpose of being extras in the show, and they were colored up and they were put in the cast just like anything else. It was really strange to watch, but no other cartoon series did that. So it made it very unique to the Transformers series. Getting this gun cut in here. Now, over the years, Ratchet and Ratchet, Bumblebee, and WheelJack, their guns changed periodically. Sorry, my vocal cords here are trying to get working, but they changed their guns between Series 1 and Season 1 and Season 3. Their weapons changed multiple times. I don't know exactly why they did that and nobody else's did, but I mean, other than Bumblebee becoming Goldbug in Generation 2, but for the 5 seasons of, or I'm sorry, 4.5 seasons up to the film in Generation 1, they really didn't have a purpose of changing the weaponry other than the fact that they just wanted to upgrade it. I mean, that's exactly what they did. They didn't explain it or anything, but he ended up with this blaster. And in the beginning, he had one that came to a closed point, like an old 30s style, like a 30s or 40s style laser blaster. It came down to a point, and then later he got this open cone one that would shoot a different type of blast out of it. And like I said, I never saw if they changed it on purpose. I did not notice in the storyline that they did it, but I did notice that they did show it differently during his outings in the show. So I mean, it's just a huge change up from a lot of what was originally there. And if you look at the action figures in comparison, they don't change it in the action figure series. They just change it, you know, in the toy line. They just change it in the animated cartoon, and that's just one of those little tidbits, you know. It's about like these guys. It's just one of those things that you just notice or you don't. So go back and check that stuff out. You know, it's always interesting to check these things out today to find out exactly where they're at and if you can see the bloopers involved or not. That always makes it fun to watch in comparison to what's going on from the first time that you remember it. And you may find out that, you know, it may not be your thing either. I found that out the hard way the other day with the Tiger Sharks. You know, I was working on that series in this card set and ended up kind of bumming myself out a little bit about it because it was just not the same. And I mean literally not the same at all. Great concept, great opening theme, great characters, but the writing and the action sequences in those cartoons were just horrible in comparison to what I remembered. And, you know, maybe it was just me. You know, maybe it was just a cartoon set for a 10-year-old kid and not, you know, not an adult to enjoy at all. Unlike the Filmation stuff, which was designed for all generations, just like the Hanna-Barbera work was set as the predecessor to that. Everybody can still enjoy that even now, you know. Even as some of the dialogue is very tongue-in-cheek, it still holds up today in comparison to what, you know, we had back then. And it's just, I don't know. That Tiger Sharks cartoon was a great concept, but I would love to see it reworked. And that could be why it made a cameo in the Thundercats 2011 series, but didn't go anywhere beyond that. That very well could be why, because, you know, they wanted to have it, wanted to see if they could reboot it, and it didn't work out because the studio probably wanted to hang on to the original concept. And if they did, you can't really make that happen that way. Just a bummer. But it is what it is. So we'll keep on moving on and go from there. You guys need to tell me, what were your favorite Transformers when you were a kid? If you were part of the Geek Squad like me, where you had your favorite stuff and you're watching this kind of thing right now, let me know in the comments what you guys were interested in, because I would love to hear, because I'm always interested in hearing what everybody else's take is on this stuff. But you never know what's going on with fan favorites and stuff like that, and versus different variations and generations of the cartoon itself and of the property. And then, of course, with the films out there now, I've got a lot of fans that tell me all the time, it's like, well, why can't you do Bumblebee, from the film? And I'm, one, that would be a lot longer than 30 minutes with the normal daily, but that's quite a bit of work to get all that going on. But I like to keep these pretty simple. But yeah, it's not that it's not doable. It's the fact that it needs to be taken care of practically, and we need to stay on point where we can move these along. Because I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the 20 or 30 minutes that I do these, but I don't want to keep you, from producing your own stuff, if that's what you're out there doing. But yeah, I get asked that a lot. Will you do this one, or will you do that one? And it's no, because it would take me like 5 hours to do that one. So it's all a matter of perspective, and it's just not practical for me to do that without notifying you guys that I'm going to do something massive like that. That's about like that Juggernaut piece that took just about an hour to do, and it was a 6-card piece all at once. And that's just one of those things, you have to plan for that kind of stuff and make sure that people are going to be following it, because if not, then it's not validated for doing it. We'll just have to see where that goes. But now I know I made his side fins a little smaller than what people want. Normally they would be way out here in this vicinity, but I went with Generation 1 where they're smaller. So for expediency, so that we can get this stuff knocked out. Because in Generation 2, he got his head replaced after the film, and it jumped it up quite a bit of size. So he did an upgrade, and they went way on out there after Generation 2. So, but I thought that was kind of weird. I also found it weird that he doesn't have a trigger finger. The Autobots just hold their hands up like this, and it's a squared fist, I don't know if that was for expediency on their part, or if they did something legit there with making that happen that way. But I followed suit with the original outline, but because everything I've seen him do, he makes a fist instead of closing it up or wrapping his fingers around it a little more dynamically. And I didn't want it to lose its edge, so I left it very, very simple and stuck with that. But that's just another one of those things. It's something that's left to artist interpretation. But in this case, like I said, I want to keep it very authentic, so I left it wide open and just did what I saw in the examples. He's got this very hard plate right here on the back of his hand. And then when his fingers close down to make a fist around the weapon, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. All the fingers are squared up. So I found it interesting, but I don't know. I didn't want to push it too far beyond that point, because I wanted it to look nostalgic like the series animation rather than looking something, totally off the wall, because I'm not going to the extreme of IDW or anything like that where it's over the top animation to where it's really high end, because I want to keep this card simple so that we can get as much on there for the time's sake as well. But yeah, give you guys enough detail that we can actually still see the character come out. So it's the gives and the the cuts and the breaks that we have to accept for the card to come together, because this is such a small working space. But anyway, I'm going to put these break lines in for the knuckles, and then I'm going to put on the actual gears and whatnot. And his middle finger is huge. It's like a half a width larger than the other fingers. It's massive. And I don't know why they did that either, but it is what it is. And these details come in from shots from the show itself, not from anybody else's work or comic books or anything like that. This is my using the show itself as an example and making my own notes along the way. Because when you just trust the designs and whatnot that you see online, you can't really trust that stuff is, legit, because everybody puts in their variation and whatnot. It's like watching, Iron Man be drawn. There's just so many variations that every artist puts into it. You can't really trust that it's going to be legit. So, and the cool thing is he doesn't have the bare knuckles that he has right here in the extension joint. He doesn't have that in here for the thumb. He has a very fine line break right there to show the gears, but that's it. It's not like this one where it's a wider cut. I almost forgot the segments on his forearm here. Those are prominent. You have to put those in. See if we can get this done. I want to make sure that I cut this guy here. And crunching on my throat drop. Just imagine how bad my voice would be today without that. About 10 minutes before the show, I started getting choked up a little bit and whatnot, and I was just like, okay, this is not going to go well. So let's make sure that we have everything covered up. Yeah, I don't want to sit here and cough for you guys the whole time. That's kind of a bummer. So this is a segment of his chest back here where the hood swings down with typical Autobot transformation for Gen 1. And then we've got the waistline here. And we've got the pelvis, which has got that iron, what I call the iron underwear, where it's got basically the briefs style. It tapers into these two segments here on either side, and then the one segment in the middle. So we have the iron briefs, and I'll put that corner right there for the outside of the leg, and that'll go behind. This will be gray. Now these are the standard go-tos. That hand is going to go right over the top of that edge. These are the standard go-to extra guys that I was talking about. And it's funny to watch them because, like I said, you can go back through the episodes. You don't really notice them if you don't know they're there, and that's what they're supposed to do, is bleed into the background or scenery or whatever they're doing and not really be in the way. But they're pretty typical. They're they have like red heads, red shoulders, um, and then they'll have alternating body parts with a bright blue. And they definitely show up more on the Autobot side than anything else. But the funny thing is, like I said, the Decepticons have their own as well. And these little filler guys are all over the place when you watch the battle scenes. If you pay attention to the background and not the core characters up front, but the bigger shots, where they're running around in the background, it's mostly these guys. You might see one or two actual cast primary Transformers running around, but for the most part, you'll see these guys. And it cracks me up to no end to watch them battle out. And nobody complains about it. And, not that we need to. It's just that once you notice they're there, it's just like, really? Wow. Because they don't even put out the high-end Transformers in the battle scenes. They do that. They save those for the up-close shots. And they end up doing all of this other stuff with these little robot guys fighting in the sidelines. And I think that's just freaking hilarious. I found that all just funny as all get out since I was a kid. And it just cracks me up. I just find great humor in that for some reason. But yeah, this guy will be one of those sideline guys. And my buddy Rusty Gilligan called them red shirts from like Star Trek. And I don't know if you know that analogy or not, but anytime anybody wears a red shirt on Star Trek, they're expendable, and they normally die. They normally die, and that's what these guys do. They're expendables. So that's where we're at. But I'm going to shape out this other shoulder here. Make that come off there like that. Got him reaching down here. I'm going to put a little bit of a battle damage mark there. I'm going to drop in this other side. And that line went right to the corner of his head. I should have placed that better. But anyway, there we go. I've got him basically holding this guy up, and put a little bit of detail back there. Some other stuff going on. And I like leaving these wide open because of the fact that I don't want to cause any grief, with it later when I color it. Because these are very, very simple, monotoned, and almost abstract in the way that they're done. They just don't have a lot of high-end contrast to them other than the actual color itself. They're very color dependent because they were animated originally. So that's why they're all open like that. IDW's done a beautiful job with the way they do Transformers now. They make them very, very high-end with a lot of detail and, mech style. And I'm all for that. It looks great. But since I'm paying homage to the original, like I said, I'm going to keep this very clean and simple. I'm going to go right here across this edge. Try not to make this too scribbly or, furry, broken, whatever floats your boat with what you want to call it. Make a bunch of hairy lines on here. Don't want to do that. But I'm going to try and tone this up a little bit And then when I ink it, I'll clean that up. Because, you know, these being sketch cards, I get a lot more of an opportunity to be a little loose with it rather than making it completely just stripped out. So, but you guys have been following this a long while now, so you know how this works. You know, don't do this on your professional comic art, which I would never do. Make sure that this is nice and clean here. And one more. And because it's WheelJack and very simple, I'm going to call it a day. The reason for that is because I want to leave this wide open whenever I detail it and not burn it out for all the color coming up. And I'm going to leave these wide open because they are colored blue when he talks. If you don't remember that, WheelJack talks, and those fins on the side of his head light up blue. And it's because he didn't have a mouth, and they needed something to show that he was talking. So they decided to use those fins to light up. Always thought that was cool, too. Always thought that was very cool. That was a Japanese animation trick. Whenever you didn't have anything, you signed over it, signed over the character. They would do that in a lot of their kaiju and a lot of their robot stuff. They used to have one series from the 60s, and I can't remember the name of it. And it used to have this dragon on it. And every time the dragon would speak, this teardrop would come up over his head. And that's how he spoke. I always thought that was funny. But it's the same thing with WheelJack here. You know, you see him lighten up so that you know he's talking. Because unlike Optimus Prime, this part over his face, that guard didn't move. So, bless you. That was my daughter sneezing in the background on the other side of the office. So, this change of weather upset her allergies too. So, but anyway. Yep. Gonna make this happen. Hey, look, it's Channel 12 News. We've made a video camera instead of a laser gun. But all joking aside, this is about as far as I want to take this one because I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to overwork it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade this part out right here. And then I'm going to call it a day because I do not want to overwork these. I want them to be nice and open for the color dependence that they require for the nostalgic look. Because unlike Cliff Jumper, WheelJack is not that defined in comparison. And I want to make sure that he's not going to get overworked. Because he's not as gritty as Cliff Jumper is. He's a little more refined than that, a little cleaner than that. He sees a little less action. Cliff Jumper's kind of like Bumblebee. He's a little bit more rough and tumble. And a lot like Brawn, which I'm going to draw as well in between Cliff Jumper and Bumblebee in the next day or two, so that you guys will be able to see that threesome set up there with Bumblebee, Brawn, and then Cliff Jumper on the other side. So we'll be able to see that going on. This is where I want to put that right there. But as far as this goes, I hope you guys dig this. I hope you keep watching. Hope you're enjoying these. as much as I am. And we will move forward with the next one. Let me see. You guys want to know who's on the list next? Hey there, Mr. Jim. Mr. Jim O'Reilly. If you guys haven't seen this guy draw some stuff, check him out too. He's a blast. He's a good buddy of mine. Check him out on his stuff on Facebook, and you'll get a ride out of it. Let's see. I've got Prowl coming up next. So they are on the list. I just got to get everybody happy here with this one. And Prowl is up next. So also later on tonight or early tomorrow, I'll post it on my timeline so you guys can see it. I wanted to let you know I'm going to be doing the Princess Leia cover for Cancer, the comic book cover for Cancer for John Rogers. I've got that set up. It's the last one. I just started on it because I've been so far behind on that particular cover. I'm going to be doing that this week, either tonight or tomorrow sometime. I'm going to be on for a special one so that I can work on that. So I'm going to show you guys what I got going on with it. People have been asking me to see it, and they want to watch me draw it. So I'm going to do that. As far as this goes, I'm going to leave this one where it is right now, and I'll get it cleaned up and inked and finish it out. I appreciate it. As far as that goes, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Take care.